On a breezy day, we're about to make the invisible visible and take you inside the Port of Baltimore. We'll put you right over the shoulder of talented and skilled professionals, the link that makes it possible for you to watch TV, drive your car, clothe your family, and live your daily lives. You're going to meet a wide variety of people who collaborate to bring you 90% of the goods you use every day. Hi, I'm Mary Beth Marsden. Join me in the Baltimore Port Alliance as we take you on an insider's tour of the 300-year-old port. This is so much a part of who we are. This town grew up around the port, where the land meets the sea. Our tour begins on board this pilot launch. They've got to be a daredevil to do that. The Pilots Association is one of the oldest professional organizations in Maryland.
Pilots have been active in the Chesapeake Bay since colonial times. In fact, we have records from the 1700s that talk about pilots providing a safe, efficient, and reliable service to the colony, which depended on water transport in those days because there was really no land infrastructure. We'll get advance notice of a ship's arrival from the agent, owner, and through the Baltimore Maritime Exchange, so we'll know what to expect. Then we have a pilot tower at the mouth of the bay that will be on the lookout for inbound ships, and using radar and AIS, we'll be able to contact them and arrange to make sure the pilot launch meets the ship at the appropriate place just outside the Chesapeake Bay. We have just over 2,000 arrivals to the Chesapeake Bay every year, and of course 2,000 departures, and we have about 1,000 ships that are shifting within the harbor. Altogether, we do about 5,000 ships a year. Many of us have been ship captains, and ship captain is trained and very well equipped and able to take care of his ship and navigate it at sea.
Navigation mark turn.
It's a whole different matter when it gets into a narrow, confined waterway.
600 yards turn.
Midship.
Midship. Navigation mark
Left
turn.
center rudder, steady on course 335.
Left center rudder, setting course 335. Aye. Counting off, so my rudder is left 15 degrees, coming to course 335.
I think the way to understand it is the ocean is relatively wide and deep. The Chesapeake Bay appears wide, but not when you're in a ship that's drawing nearly 50 feet of water. In that case, the ship's in a trench. And in a trench with very little clearance underneath, ships become much more squirrely, and you have to have that experience doing that. For instance, a ship that is in water at least twice the draft of the ship. So a ship drawing 50 feet, say, if it's in water that's at least 100 feet deep, it's predictable pretty much how it'll handle. If it gets any shallower, then it becomes a little more unpredictable. In the Chesapeake Bay, the deepest ships we have will have only perhaps a foot of clearance between the bottom of the ship and the bottom of the bay. And then it's extremely difficult to handle. And then you put that narrow bottom clearance into a narrow slot that is what our channels are, a trench. It depends on the channel, but they're between 800 feet wide and 400 feet wide. Then handling that ship becomes a whole different matter, and you have to have had years and years of experience doing it. So we provide that to the ships. And that's no different than other ports around the world. Pilots are trained to do that. We also, as in many other ports, are licensed by the state and regulated by the state and given a limited monopoly by the state because we are not accountable to the ship's owner. We are accountable to the state of Maryland. So if there's a ship that is deficient in some way, either its equipment's not working properly, the crew is poorly trained, the pilot has the authority to anchor the ship and wait till that situation is remedied. Of course, we immediately report that to our partners, the Coast Guard, and together we will resolve it.
During the week this story was recorded, the Coast Guard, police, tugs, and pilots were busy performing their normal duties, but they also had additional responsibilities, escorting and docking the tall ships and Navy vessels participating in the Star-Spangled Spectacular. All of this special event activity was coordinated by Sail Baltimore.
So I can get aboard.
When the ships reach the area just south of the Key Bridge, the pilots who brought them up the bay are relieved by pilots who will coordinate the docking of the vessels with tugs and the ship's crew.
Hey Chris, port side ladder.
Port side, okay.
The pilot launch delivers the relief pilot, who will dock the ship and removes the pilot who brought the ship up the bay.
As we transit, we're fairly competent mariners. Fortunately, we don't have the resident expert, knowledge that these guys do. They have just thousands and thousands of hours of experience, and it makes it so much easier for us to do these transits without, any difficulty.
Captain, this is my relief, Roger Hall.
How you doing, Captain?
Brian Carmichael.
How are you, sir?
While Christine keeps the launch alongside Oak Hill, Commander Carmichael gives Roger a quick rundown of his ship's capabilities.
4 knots plus available, CPP.
Twin screw?
Twin screw.
Okay.
Yeah.
Outbound turning or inbound turning?
Outbound.
Outbound. Okay. Sounds good. Well, it gets you clued in. I don't think we need 24 knots. We'll just kind of.
I'd love to see it. Apart from the launch.
Christine returns Merrill to shore and repeats the process many times on this busy day. Pilots and tugs have to deal with a wide variety of ships every day. During an event like Spectacular, it's even more extreme when they have to shift from working with huge modern warships, such as the Oak Hill, to tall ships like the Coast Guard cutter Eagle, which are much smaller and more fragile.
Helmsman, rudder midshipman.
You're taking something, a ship, and it's kind of like you're kind of doing a dance. You got to do the right things at the right time to kind of, again, get it to where you need to be. And so you're always thinking ahead. You come in at a safe speed, and it's just really the approach, because a lot of times if it doesn't work out, it can make the job tougher, or you might have to almost like start over again, and sometimes that's difficult with big heavy ships. We had to go into a kind of tight parking space. The tug, its capabilities made the job happen a whole lot easier, because we only had one tug, and really this morning we could have used 2.
Basically, there's like 4 different whistle commands. What we're doing is answering the pilot. However, now I like to talk. The old days, the whistle signals were in use, but now I like to talk because we're being recorded. So everything we say and everything the pilot says is recorded. So if the pilot is saying a command and I don't answer it on the radio, it might be perceived that I missed the order. So that's why I talk on the radio. Some of the older guys still use the whistle signal. And that's the most important thing, is that you don't miss their orders.
Engine stop.
It's a very busy day in the harbor. Working with the Navy Gray Hulls over in North Locust Point are some McAllister tugs. Captain Mark Rooney takes a minute to demonstrate the steering and speed control of his workhorse.
The units on this tug can be turned in any direction, so we can actually put the force and direct it in a certain way to make the boat go sideways. And just by directing these units in the direction you want to go, we can maneuver a vessel. If you can imagine 2 large outboard motors that can turn 360 degrees, and those are propulsion units. They're made by Rolls-Royce on this vessel, and they can be turned in any direction, and they can direct the boat in the direction you point them. You can work them against each other to stop. They're always turning, and in order to stop the vessel, you go in what's called transverse arrest, which is turning them this way. They go against each other, and the vessel stops. To go forward, you direct the propulsion that pushes the vessel forward. And this is the throttle.
Okay.
That allows you to have more power. And if you want to go in reverse, then you reverse them. And now the propulsion is going in reverse. If I want to go towards the dock, I can direct one of them towards the dock, and it pushes the vessel towards the dock.
The old days, we used to have a big wheel on a tug and a diesel electric engine, and you used to have to back and fill all the time. And this, now you're just you're turning around on a dime. It's really amazing. This is much easier. It takes a lot less stress, it takes a lot off of you.